Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today on Not a Nail Tech, I'm going to be trying to make some watercolour effect nails. So they're going to be floral, and I'm doing the background so it looks like paper. So I've used our colour parchment, and I'm just popping on a couple of layers of this, curing in between. But I'm going to be using just gel polishes for this effect. It's going to be really simple, so you don't have to buy loads of different products, just stuff that you'll have in the cupboard already if you already do gel nails. I'm going to cure that and then just go back in with a second coat, just making sure it's totally opaque. Once that's cured, I'm just going in with our ultra matte coat, and this just makes it super easy to work on when you're doing detail work or for watercolour. It's not going to run too much because the surface isn't going to be too slippy. And it just gets rid of the inhibition layer that you had earlier on from the parchment colour. Once that's cured, I'm just taking Soulmate and I'm taking a small detail brush and just adding on 3 little teeny tiny lines. So I'm just placing them like this. You can place them slightly differently, but this will kind of give you that side profile of a flower. And I'm just going to be taking some acetone. I haven't cured that. I'm just going back in with the acetone, and this is just going to give that watercolour effect by spreading out that gel polish. And the joy of this is if you get an effect and you don't like it, you can just wipe it off and do it again. So you can go back in and remove some of that product just to give it more of a watercolour feel too. And you can add more acetone, you can add more gel polish, just play with it until you're happy. I'm going to pop that into cured just to make sure it's safe, and then I'm taking Fuchsia Lily and doing a very similar thing just across the nail. I'm going to be taking 3 different pink colours, so quite a bold, intense pink, a mid, dusty pink, and then a very light pink, just to give a lot of different details to the nail. I don't want it to look too samey. I want it to look like an old-fashioned watercolour painting. So I've just done the same thing with the acetone on this one too and spread it out. Like I say, if you're not happy with it, you can wipe it off, or you can go back in like I am here with just a little bit more gel. This was the first time I ever did this kind of watercolour effect, and it did take me a couple of tries to get it right, so don't worry if you don't get the effect perfect on the first go, just keep trying. So next I'm using strawberry cream and doing the same thing, but just doing 2 smaller flowers around those other ones that I've just done, and again going in with acetone and just blending that out. These ones are going to be a little bit hard to see on camera just because they are so light and quite similar to the background colour. Next, I'm just going in and putting these teeny tiny dots across the nail, and these are going to be similar to, you know, like baby's breath flowers. Similar to that kind of effect, but obviously not baby's breath because these are bright pink, but you know what I mean, that kind of teeny tiny flower. So I'm going to do those ones and then go back in with the other colours too, and just do them around those ones, spread them out with the acetone again, and that'll make it look more like a little sprig of flowers. Once that's cured, I'm taking Midori and just that ultrafine detail brush and just adding on some stems for these flowers. So I'm just kind of crossing them over, bringing them together, more like a bunch of flowers that have been picked up together. So for those little ones, I'll be adding lots of little stems for those and some slightly thicker ones for the bigger flowers too. And because I want this to look like a painting, I'm not going to be too precious about it. I don't mind having slightly wiggly lines or lines that aren't perfectly smooth all the way down. I think it adds a bit of texture and a little bit of interest too. And I'm just going to add on a few little leaves too to the bottom. I'm going to take some acetone and just spread them out a little bit like I did with the flowers, just so they all tie in together. I'm just going back in with that gel polish and going over those leaves again, and I did spend a lot of time playing around with these until I was happy with them. I still don't think they were perfect, but they did the job. But yeah, I do apologise that it does take me a while to get through these leaves, just because I was trying really hard to get a certain effect and I wasn't quite getting there with my ability. So I'm just going back in and changing them around till I'm happy. Now I'm happy with that. I'm just going in and adding some green to the bottom of the flowers. You know, like where the stems join the flowers and it's a bit leafy, that kind of area. It'll just give those flowers a bit of definition too, especially those lighter ones. And just going in with some acetone just to spread that out a little bit too. I'm going to cue with that and then take Ancient Redwood and do a very similar thing. I'm basically going down the side of those green lines just to add in some brown, because I don't want it to be too bright green. I had seen a bit of a reference image where they'd use more of a greeny brown, so I thought I'd use both colours, and it just gives me the option to add in little details here and there too. Once I'm happy with that, I'm just going to pop it in the lamp to cure, and then we're going to go on to the next nail. So for this one, I'm not doing a full design across the whole nail. I'm kind of just doing it at the bottom, giving the kind of feel of a French tip, but it's not too full, it's quite spacious. So just taking our really light strawberry cream colour, adding that on and using the acetone to spread that out, and these are going to be quite big flowers too. And I'm just adding in some of that Fuchsia Lily at the bottom there and spreading it out just to give a bit more definition too. Once I'm happy with that one, I'm just taking Soulmate and just adding on 3 little petal shapes and doing the same, but I'm doing this with a slightly bigger brush because I thought it would make my life a little bit easier than going in with that teeny tiny brush. And then going back in with Midori and adding in those stems and the leafy bits at the bottom of the flower, and I'm going to do the same with Ancient Redwood too. For the next nail, I'm doing one big flower in the middle, so I'm starting off with our lightest colour, that strawberry cream, and doing 3 big petals and then spreading them out with the acetone. I'm just taking some more of that Soulmate and adding that in too. I'm just pushing it so it goes around the outside of those petals just to give it a bit more definition. And like I say, you can just keep adding, taking away whatever you need until you get the desired effect. Once that's cured, I'm just taking Soulmate and adding some more definition with some line work around those petals. And again, just going in with that acetone just to blend those lines out just a little bit. Once that's cured, I'm going back in with Midori and adding that stem on the bottom and just pulling that up across the flower just at the bottom there again. And just spreading it out with the acetone too. And I decided to go in and add some leaves to this flower as well. And going back in with that ancient redwood now that's cured and just adding in some extra detail lines, and then I'll use the acetone again just to move that around. I'm going to pop that into cure and then onto the next nail. I'm using Fuchsia Lily and just adding those 3 little dots there. So I'm doing similar to what I did on the second nail, apart from I'm doing this at the top corner instead of the bottom corner. So just adding a few flowers all concentrated in one area. So I'm just taking that gel polish on an ultra fine detail brush and just popping that around the flower for a bit of definition again. And again, just spreading it out with the acetone. I'm going in with Soulmate this time higher up the nail and doing a very similar thing. Same we've done on all of the nails. So it's quite a very similar process. And like I say, if you're doing a bigger flower, try and use a bigger brush because it does make life a lot easier. I'm going in with strawberry cream now as well for the third flower and doing the same process. And just adding in some more of the other gel polishes at the top there just for some more colour. And as you can see, these flowers don't need to be perfect. It's really hard to get them perfect, especially when you're doing something watercolour, because as soon as you put those stems and any leaves and anything else in, it's really identifiable as a flower. So I'm just using Midori now that's cured and just adding on the bottom of those flowers and some stems as well. Once that's cured, I'm going back in with ancient redwood and again adding in some extra details along those stems and the bottom of the flowers. Once that's cured, we're going on to the final nail and I'm adding on that kind of baby's breath sprig flower kind of effect. So I'm just going in with Fuchsia Lily and spreading that out with the acetone, and then I'm going back in with Soulmate and adding some other sections on there too. And again, I'm just going to take that acetone and spread those out. And finally going in with strawberry cream. And just spread that out as well. I'm going to pop that into cure, and then we're taking Midori again and just adding some stems off to the side for all of these little teeny tiny flowers. So I'm trying to keep these thinner than all of the other stems I've done because these are meant to be much smaller flowers, which is quite difficult, so you do really want a super fine brush. And then once that's cured, I'm going in with Ancient Redwood again and just adding some extra lines down the green. And finally, I'm just doing one big flower at the bottom of this nail and just taking that acetone again and spreading that out. And just adding a little leafy bit, grassy bit, leafy bit, whatever you want to call it, up above that flower too. Just adding some extra colour into that flower for definition, pop that into cure, and then we're going to take Ultra Matte Coat and finish this whole set off with just a matte coat on it. I don't want it to be shiny because most watercolour effect things don't come shiny. They don't like really give a big gloss over the top at the end. So I want to keep it relatively authentic. And there we go, guys. There's the full set. I'd love to know what you think down below. If you want any of the products that I've used today, they'll be tagged down below the video as well. There'll be an easy shopping link for you too. And we'll see you next time. See you later, guys. Bye.